Everyone deserves access to healthy air.
Colorado lawmakers say pollution is disproportionately impacting low-income communities. We visited a Commerce City neighborhood to see the problems firsthand.
There's just so much pollution outside, so much smog that I can't even really breathe.
Tina Peters comes kicking and screaming into the race for Secretary of State.
Let go of me. Let go of me.
A prosecutor says it may be case closed for the man accused of starting one of Colorado's most destructive wildfires.
Love is in the air today. Snow will replace it later this week. Mike has your forecast.
And Contact Denver 7 exposes more complaints about a major car dealership.
It was devastating. It's been a devastating experience since that day.
Good evening and thank you for watching Denver 7. I'm Ann Trujillo.
I'm Shannon Ogden. Glad you're with us tonight. For a state as beautiful as ours, we sure have our share of smog.
Not that it's been shared fairly. An August report from the state health department found the levels of fine particle pollution in Commerce City and North Denver to be higher than anywhere else in the state. And some of that pollution came from traffic and wildfire smoke. Some of it came from Suncor, a nearby refinery that's become common reference for poor air quality.
Well, today lawmakers and environmental justice advocates called out companies like Suncor while pledging to clear the air of unhealthy chemicals.
Denver 7's Ivan Rodriguez explains their plan.
Lawmakers and environmental justice advocates say many Coloradans don't have strong protections in place against toxic pollutants, especially in communities of color. Their goal is this piece of legislation changes that.
Everyone deserves access to healthy air.
Colorado State Senator Julie Gonzalez is a sponsor of the Public Protections from Toxic Air Contaminants Act. She says if the bill is passed, it will impact communities across the state by setting a broad range of regulations for all corporations releasing toxic pollutants into the air.
Communities will have more tools to hold these toxic polluters, like Suncor or like any other corporation that is spewing out benzene, formaldehyde, and a host of other pollutants out into the air in Colorado.
At this stage, how they plan on holding companies accountable is still up in the air.
This is all going to be part of the debate here of this bill, because there's a lot of different ideas on what accountability looks like, right?
What is clear for people who live near plants like Suncor, it's about time.
It should have happened, yes, over 20, 30 years ago. Kids, I have 3 elementary aged kids, and a lot of times it's hard for them to go outside and play because there's just so much pollution outside, so much smog that they can't even really breathe.
For Laura Martinez, who has lived in Commerce City for nearly 30 years, the question of how they'll keep companies across the state accountable is crucial.
Playing maybe heftier fines, or actually, maybe one idea that I would love to see is for every fine that they get, they plant a certain number of trees in that community.
Some of the goals with the new bill include limiting toxic emissions, studying impacts from air pollution from more than one facility, and strengthening reporting and monitoring of pollutants.
What is clear is that there are bad actors across the state who have been spewing out pollutants into our air for years, and it's time we took action.
Because even though it may have taken longer than expected to get to this point, clean air is something Martinez wants to see for her children.
It needs to be a right to breathe clean air. And especially here in the United States, I think we all deserve it.
Ivan Rodriguez, Denver 7.
In 2020, Suncor and the state health department settled for $12 million, and that money was to go toward improving operations and enhancing technology. Now, to our knowledge, it remains the largest payout involving air quality in Colorado history. Suncor said today it's reviewing the language in this latest bill and hopes to have open and factual discussions to find the right solutions.
Tina Peters, who ultimately may not be allowed to run elections in the county that elected her to run elections, is running for Colorado Secretary of State. Peters says she is seeking the office because she feels the state needs someone who will put people over political theater. Last week, she was arrested for allegedly filming a court hearing without permission. Grand Junction police say she also tried to kick an officer. A grand jury is currently deciding if Peters should also face charges for compromising sensitive election information, and that situation forced Mesa County to replace costly equipment and led to Secretary of State Jenna Griswold suing in order to prevent Peters from presiding over elections. Well, today, Griswold called Peters unfit for office and said she is a danger to Colorado elections.
And to be sure, there is no love lost between Griswold and Peters. Peters regularly derides Griswold when appearing in public, and though she's never threatened the secretary, plenty of people who embrace her line of election conspiracy theories have.
I've received threats directly texted to me on voicemail, to my personal email, to the office email, on social media, DMs, in every way of communication possible.
Now, these are just a few of the images the Secretary's office shared with us of the threats directed at Griswold. Griswold is requesting $120,000 from the legislature for the purpose of hiring security. She's also seeking to close a loophole that will allow her office to receive support from state troopers.
A bill intended to protect people who enforce zoning regulations and health codes from doxing has made it through the State House and will now be heard in the Senate. Doxing is when someone publishes someone's information online so as to open them up for harassment. This bill allows those people to take their personal information off the internet if they believe they're at risk. Colorado already protects healthcare workers from doxing. Cherry Creek Schools will hold its regularly scheduled meeting virtually tonight because of a bomb threat. Now, we're told the meeting will take place at a location under a secured perimeter. The district says the threat came from someone with a documented criminal history.
And Boulder County's health department is meeting as we speak to consider lifting its mask mandate. Now, every other health department in the region has already either lifted requirements or announced intentions to do so.
Colorado hospitals continue to benefit from a remarkable drop in coronavirus patients tonight. 4,500 cases were reported from the weekend into today. 766 people with confirmed or suspected cases are in the hospital. Now, Colorado was at more than 1,700 hospitalizations just 1 month ago.
A Douglas County man accused of murdering his sister and another person has been extradited to Colorado and appeared in court today. Casey Duvall was arrested in Kansas for the murders of Brian Gray and Jessica Mitchell last week. Deputies have not said how they were killed. The affidavit does remain sealed.
The district attorney for the San Luis Valley says charges will likely be dropped against the man accused of starting the spring fire in 2018. This is according to the Associated Press, which also reports that Jesper Jorgensen will probably be turned over to ICE custody. And that could mean deportation to Jorgensen's home country of Denmark. 140 homes were burned in that fire, and Jorgensen has repeatedly been found incompetent to stand trial.
A naval engineer with ties to Colorado has accepted a plea deal on allegations he tried to sell nuclear submarine secrets to a foreign country. Jonathan TOEBBE and his wife Diana were arrested last October after the FBI claimed the couple intended to trade secrets for cryptocurrency. Jonathan TOEBBE studied nuclear engineering at the Colorado School of Mines from 2008 to 2012. He is likely to spend at least 12 years in prison.
The U.S. Postal Service is offering a reward of up to $50,000 for information that helps catch and convict the people who robbed a mail carrier last week. The Postal Service says 2 people stopped the carrier in Denver near Milwaukee and MLK, showed a weapon, and USPS says property belonging to the Postal Service was taken, but not mail.
Tonight, Aurora City Council is expected to approve a deal that will allow a Florida firm to oversee changes within the police and fire departments. The contract would run for 5 years. It's worth $4.5 million, and among other things, the firm will be tasked with improving hiring and creating guidance on bias in policing.
Now, our inbox has been inundated with complaints about Carvana since our report on the car dealer last week. One story in particular we knew we had to share, and here to do that is Contact Denver 7's Jacqueline Allen.
I bought our car from Carvana.
Maybe you saw Carvana's Super Bowl commercial Sunday. Dennis Atencio certainly did.
I don't want anyone to experience this.
He wanted a hassle-free car buying experience.
At first, I thought it was the most enjoyable car buying experience that I had.
But 7 months after he bought it, a repo truck showed up in his driveway.
Just the humiliation has been extremely painful.
Police reports show the car had been stolen in Memphis 7 months before Dennis bought it.
This was a stolen vehicle?
Yeah, so this was a Hertz rental car. It was at the airport in Memphis, and it was stolen in Memphis. So there's multiple open titles on this car.
Consumer protection attorney Matt Osborne says after Dennis got the car back, he found out Carvana not only sold him a stolen car.
No, this thing's a death trap.
The car had prior damage he says happened before Carvana sold it.
My theory of the case is they discovered this during the inspection, and they decided, well, we'll just sell it anyways without disclosing it.
This vehicle condition report details wrinkled sheet metal, missing bolts, and a clearly bent radiator, stating the car is a total loss with previous crash damage that has been poorly repaired.
You can't run it through an inspection and not notice these problems.
Nora Schlieder owns SOS Inspections and wrote that report.
It was unsafe to drive, critical.
But Carvana promises a 150-point inspection. They've not responded to Contact Denver 7 about these allegations, but we found Carvana has faced fines and license suspensions in several states. The Better Business Bureau has thousands of complaints. Colorado regulators have also had complaints, but tell us if a company's based out of state, they don't have jurisdiction.
You're in the wild, wild west if you buy a car from Carvana.
This is a messed up car.
Dennis can't safely drive this car, so he bought an identical car from another dealer while he takes Carvana into arbitration next month.
What should Carvana do to make this right?
Stop selling junk cars.
For Contact Denver 7, I'm Jacqueline Allen.
And if you're wondering, arbitration is necessary because Carvana's contract doesn't allow customers to sue them for damages. Dennis says the company was willing to rewind the deal, but not pay for all the fees, the hassle, and all the time this has taken. Meanwhile, if you have a complaint to lodge, leave us a voicemail at the number on your screen, or you can email us at contact7@thedenverchannel.com.
It's Miller time, and Broncos country is living vicariously through Vaughn.
Plus, a Colorado woman celebrates a big birthday and offers some sage advice while she's at it.
50s and 60s today, but we'll have snow and cold by midweek.